what we're finding is that in America right now, there's over 500,000 people who are homeless. I think I've looked at the numbers right now, it's 552,000 people are homeless right now in America. And of that, approximately 50,000 are veterans. So you're looking at, it's actually, I think it's an eighth. I think it's between 11 to 12%. So if you go down there, most people, when they see somebody's homeless, they say things like, oh, he's a vagrant, it's a problem with drugs, it's a problem with alcohol. 1/8 of them is an eighth of them. So that's basically for every 8 homeless people you see, that person is a veteran, which is an unbelievable statistic. And America is one of these places, we want to support our veterans, thank you for your service and all that. But what's happened is we've created a system whereby the cracks in society have created where these people are ending up in the streets. Now, why are they ending up in the streets? Because a lot of them get PTSD. A lot of them, they can't get a job. They can't fit back into what's actually happening in there. There's a shortage of, affordable housing out there as well. So what happens is, and then a lot of it because of the healthcare system that's here as well, that a lot of veterans have to fill in a lot of information in order to be able to go on to these, to access services as well. So what happens is there's just nowhere for them to go, and they just end up on the streets. And so then we're looking at these types of problems. So, if you think 12.5%, that's like a crazy statistic. Now, people say, well, that person's still drinking alcohol. Well, you try sleeping on the streets at night when it goes down to minus whatever and you're absolutely freezing. Maybe just getting enough money to get yourself a bottle of cheap whiskey to actually survive the night is your only hope. It's like pure and utter survival. When these people in California, they're eating out of trash cans. And they eat out of a trash can. This guy, back in the 90s or early 2000s at the 2 different Iraq wars, ultimately they're now having to eat out of a trash can and they're homeless with it. But when you start to go into this, now my oldest son, Malachi, he's an autism spectrum. So obviously I've got an interest in mental health and what actually happens there as well. But, ultimately they say like 60% of people who are homeless have experienced mental health problems, and 30% of them are chronically, chronically homeless mental health conditions. I think that's what it is I wrote down, and that's how they actually put it down in their statistics. But if you think of that, it's like absolutely and utterly crazy, because it's like, how can that be the case, So it's just like, wait a minute, we've got a system whereby 552,000 people are homeless, right? Of that, essentially an eighth of them, 12.5% of them, are veterans. And we've got a system that's created this. And then you start to look at, gentrification. This is when we go into areas which are low-class areas, and we suddenly knock it all down, put in new apartments. That was actually low-cost housing that people stayed for in the past. And then what happens is like, some of these people just cannot get another property. And then they lead to this, Some of the statistics become even worse when you go into it. So 51% are single males, and that's where most of these veterans are included in there. 24% are single females, but the fastest growing sector for homeless people are families with children. So wait a minute, whole families are now going homeless because of what it is. Now, with inflation going up the way it's going right now, it's going to get worse and worse. 23% of homeless people now are families. And then it starts to come into like really sort of, scary numbers. It's like 30% of them are under the age of 18. And then, but they're mostly with their families. But 5% of all homeless people out there are kids under the age of 16 who don't have their mother or don't have their father on the streets with them as well. That's like 30,000 kids, 16 and under, are alone right now, homeless on the streets of America. So, and you start looking into this thing as well. It's like, how do they actually fix it going forward? And we can't just keep saying, well, it's drugs, it's alcohol. That's it, poor decisions. It's like, there's multiple things. Your 60% are mental health problems. They're looking to do this as well. They're closing down all the public libraries. So for homeless people, public libraries used to be the only way they can access the internet. Think about it like that. Or they close the public library, that's how homeless people access the internet. Or we need to put in a job application. There's a job wanted there. You need to put in an electronic application. How can they even get the internet to put in the application? It's like it's an unbelievable, horrible thing that's going round and round and round. And then they start to do the statistics whereby, well, if this person needs to be sleeping on the streets so many days of the year to be included to be homeless. So if they're sheltered for a lot and they manage to go into some sort of affordable housing but end up back in the streets, we don't count that statistic this year because it doesn't work like that, And it's like the more I dig into this thing here as well, and it's like I walk down to Balboa Park when I'm down there. It's like I see these people. So many of them are autistic. So many of them are stimming. It's like they are stimming. They are autistic. It's like, and then the percentage gets so much worse when you start going into different areas in terms of people from being African Americans. They are 4 times more likely to be homeless than somebody who's white. That's like a crazy statistic there as well. African American. So in amongst it all, so if you're African American and you've got mental health problems and you're autistic, the chances are you're going to be on the streets, and then society is not going to give you a chance to get back. There's no way back for you right now. And then you're just living through this life of just being disregarded by society, and there's no way back. And then what are the politicians looking to do? Well, we just blame the other guy. Well, it's all California's fault. They all come to California because it's sunny. It's like it's a crazy thing that's happening more and more. So every week I'm going to focus on different things to speak about mental health, different things to speak about homeless veterans, and different solutions that we can look to speak about, and why we have to do something more than what we're doing right now. Why can't we do more than what we're doing right now? We're happy to send $46 billion worth to Ukraine. Majority of that is in weapons as part of our aid package, and we're able to do an executive order. And I get it, I feel so bad for people in Ukraine, all the problems there as well. I'm not discounting what's happening with that. All I'm saying to people right now is they can write an executive order for $46 billion just like that, for us to put all our weapons out there as well. Why can't we do another executive order for $46 billion to try to solve these solutions? And especially coming back to homeless veterans. They shouldn't even be. And then it comes back to what I spoke about last week, is the paperwork these people have to fill in, right? To be able to access services is unbelievable. So you're on the street, you're a veteran, you've gone to maybe 2 tours in Iraq, a bit of shrapnel's gone into your brain, bomb's gone off. You come back, you can't get a job, you can't fit in society, your family's left you, you've got PTSD, you've got mental health problems now, you've got all these problems around sleeping on the street. But don't worry, you're a veteran, so you can access our services. All you've got to do is fill in the forms. And the forms are like a telephone book. I don't know if people remember, but old people, the old yellow pages, it's like that much. It's like, how can that person fill that in? It's absolutely impossible. They shouldn't be forced to do that. You know what I mean? If you're a veteran and you've gone out to defend this country, why an eighth of them are ending up in the streets? And it happens everywhere. It's like an unbelievable system. You know what I mean? It's just like, and we're prepared just to walk past them, and we're prepared to do that. And the thing is, what can you do? Maybe buy them something to eat, maybe drop them a little bit of money. But now we're going to a cashless society. It's like, so who's carrying cash anymore? They don't have an ATM machine to say, oh, well, I'll just give you $20. I'll just Venmo you 20. How are you going to Venmo 20 to them? You've got no cash. So it's even getting more and more difficult for them. The pandemic was horrible for homeless people, and it created more homeless people. And now we're going into this horrible recession. We're in a recession now anyway, people. It's like, we need 2 quarters of negative growth. Well, I'll tell you what, this quarter, after what's happened in the last few days in the markets and that, and then last month being the worst month in 3 years or 4 years, it's like we're in a recession right now anyway, So how is it going to, and so the recession doesn't suddenly bounce back, and we will come back. It is a cycle. I get that there as well. But how are we going to help these people during this time? And that's something that just irks me a lot from that, So it's, but what can we do then to help this then, Garrett,
Yeah, it's there's a lot of a lot of it comes with notifying people kind of, sometimes with benefits from the VA that they don't know are there, like with a lot of veterans that were exposed to burn pits. That's a very big one. And I've helped a couple friends of mine, you know, you get in that registry and get registered for when there is compensation, because it's been promised now at this point. And there are so many veterans that were impacted by the burn pits. PTSD is another huge one. Mental health is the biggest one that ends up putting people on the streets. And it's really about those first couple months when somebody gets out of the military and they're in the process of piecing together what their career is going to be, following their time in the military. And it's up to us, it's good friends and family and people that are able to kind of help, give them options and ideas, and stand with them when they've come back from a tough situation. And especially in the case of mental health, it's difficult, and it's not always something that people want to accept help for. And but just standing with them and kind of like being a friend is a huge step that
There's no
helps.
there's no support network for them, and what
Yeah.
we'll do is we'll get Adam Kokesh on the show at one point and then talk about this AmeriCoin concept we've been working on in terms of tokenizing the federal assets, but we'll leave that for another show. And then everyone would get distribute these tokens, as a potential way coming out of that. And maybe we should talk about that next week. But it's good to keep talking about this for people. And if you go to these shows, so you go to the oil shows, I go to oil shows, there's oil shows, there's always a stand, right? There at all these
Yep.
shows, energy shows, there's always a stand from veterans out there or people looking to help homeless veterans. And all you need to do is just go start speaking to them. And they'll start to enlighten you what they're trying to do, what they're trying to do in terms of raise money, and where the shortage in terms of the financial aid for these people to actually provide these services. Because suddenly it's just like walking off a plank. Where are they going to go? It's just like, it's unbelievable.